Commander Vexthor had seen a lot of stupid things in his 300 years administering the galactic trials. He'd watched a Chromalian warrior try to punch his way through a metaphysical concept. He'd seen a Deltharian princess attempt to seduce a mathematical equation. Once, a Blorgian champion had eaten the entrance and spent 6 hours digesting pure cosmic energy before violently experiencing enlightenment from both ends. But this was new. "Let me get this straight," said the human, scratching his head. "You want me to walk into a maze that literally bends reality itself to exploit my deepest species-level weaknesses, and if I make it through, Earth gets a seat on the Galactic Council?" "That is correct," Vexthor replied, all 4 of his arms crossed in what he hoped looked authoritative. The human was named Jake Murphy. He'd shown up to the most important trial in galactic civilization wearing cargo shorts, a Hawaiian shirt with little surfboards on it, and sandals that Vexthor was pretty sure violated at least 3 interstellar fashion treaties. Cool, Jake said, nodding. "And you said there's a gift shop?" Vexthor felt a migraine forming in his primary neural cluster. The path of trials is a sacred rite established by the progenitors 17,000 years ago. It has humbled emperors and broken the spirits of legendary heroes. The maze reads the quantum signature of your species' fundamental nature and creates a trial specifically designed to challenge your greatest strength by confronting you with its perfect opposite. Right. But gift shop, though? There is no gift shop. Seems like a missed revenue opportunity, honestly. Vexithor pulled up the holographic display, hoping visual aids would help this aggressively casual human understand the gravity of the situation. Images of past warriors flickered in the air, each one looking appropriately terrified or determined, or both. "The Zorani are telekinetic masters," he explained. "The maze removes all physical matter, leaving them powerless. The Krelax share a hive mind across their entire species. The maze isolates them completely, cutting them off from their collective consciousness. Every species has a defining trait, and the path of trials finds it, inverts it, and uses it to test your worthiness." Jake squinted at the images. "So, what you're saying is this maze is kind of a jerk?" "The maze is ancient and impartial. Yeah, that's what jerks always say." Jake stretched, his spine popping in several places. "All right, let's do this. I've got a fantasy football draft at 7, so if we could wrap this up in like an hour, that'd be great." Vexthor stared at him. This was Earth's champion. This was the warrior humanity had chosen to represent their entire species in the most important trial of their existence. "You understand the failure rate is 97%, correct?" "Sure, but that means 3% pass, right? I got like a B- in high school statistics, and even I know those are technically odds." It was at that moment Vexthor realized he was either about to witness the fastest failure in trials history, or something was about to go very, very wrong. Jake stepped up to the entrance of the path of trials. The gateway shimmered with colors that shouldn't exist. A doorway into a space where the normal rules of physics went to die. Vexthor's assistant, Blorpt, floated nearby. Blorpt was a gaseous jellyfish creature whose species communicated through color changes. Right now he was flashing concerned magenta. "All previous entrants have taken at least several minutes to mentally prepare," Vexthor said. "Don't you want to meditate, perform a ritual, say goodbye to your loved ones via quantum entanglement?" "Nah, I'm good." Jake cracked his knuckles. "My mom thinks I'm at the dentist anyway. She worries." The human walked straight into the gateway without another word. Inside the maze's control dimension, something unprecedented happened. The ancient AI that had operated the path of trials for millennia immediately began scanning Jake Murphy's quantum signature. It analyzed his DNA, his neural patterns, his species' evolutionary history, their cultural development, and their collective psychological profile. Then it analyzed it again. Then it ran a full diagnostic on itself because surely something was broken. Back in the observation chamber, Vexthor and Blorpt watched the readouts with growing alarm. "The maze is confused," Vexthor said slowly. "I didn't know it could be confused." Blorpt flashed interrogative yellow. The data streams were going haywire. The AI was trying to categorize humanity's primary trait and coming up with contradictory results every nanosecond. Analysis. Species shows persistence hunter characteristics. Recommend trial based on forced stillness and override. Species shows advanced tool use capabilities. Recommend trial based on technological deprivation and override. Species shows complex social coordination. Recommend trial based on isolation and override. Species shows pattern recognition abilities. Recommend trial based on chaos and override. Species shows adaptability and generalization. Recommend trial based on error. Cannot identify opposite of generalized adaptability. The maze's processing core was starting to smoke. Not metaphorically. Actual smoke was coming out of quantum processors that operated in 17 dimensions simultaneously. "What's it doing?" Vexthor asked, leaning closer to the screens. Inside the maze, Jake was standing in what should have been the first trial chamber. Instead, he was looking at a long, straight, well-lit hallway with an exit sign at the end. "Huh," Jake said. "That was easy." Back in the control dimension, the maze's AI was having what could only be described as an existential crisis. Final analysis. Human species is adequately proficient at running, throwing, climbing, swimming, thinking, planning, cooperating, competing, pattern recognition, tool use, and approximately 742 other skills. Human species is not exceptional at any single trait. Unable to identify strength to exploit. Unable to create opposite condition. Unable to even. The Maiai did the only logical thing it could do when faced with an unsolvable problem. It opened a straight path to the exit and went into standby mode to process what had just happened to its entire understanding of biological specialization. Vexthor watched in horror as Jake simply walked down the hallway, stopping once to tie his shoe. "This isn't possible," he whispered. Jake paused again, this time examining one of the wall decorations. The maze had decorated itself with writhing cosmic horrors from the space between dimensions, as was traditional. "Oh, that's cool," Jake said to himself. "Very Lovecraftian. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. The tentacles are a bit derivative, but the color palette is solid." Then he continued walking and reached the center chamber. Blorpt was flashing through colors so rapidly he looked like a disco ball. "Get the council," Vexthor said faintly. "Get them now." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was convened within the hour, which was impressive considering 3 of the members existed in different time streams, and one was technically a cloud of sentient mathematics. High Chancellor Quindar crystallized into the center of the chamber. She was a being of pure silicon lattice, and when she was annoyed, she refracted light in sharp, angry patterns. "Explain," she said, and every word came out like breaking glass. Vexthor pulled up the footage. The entire council watched in silence as Jake Murphy entered the path of trials, experienced absolutely no trials, and walked straight through to the sacred orb of qualification at the center. The current footage showed Jake examining the orb, which was a crystallized fragment of a neutron star that hummed with the approval of the ancient progenitors. "Can I take this?" Jake's voice echoed through the chamber. "It's pretty cool. Is it dishwasher safe?" "It looks like it might be dishwasher safe." Councillor Threndax, a floating brain in a jar, pulsed with confusion. "In 14,000 years of recorded trials, nothing like this has ever occurred." "Obviously he cheated," said Councillor Milkeras, a reptilian being whose scales were turning suspicious orange. "He must have hacked the system." "Impossible," Vexthor said. "The maze's security protocols are written in quantum-locked ancient code. You would need to understand 17 dimensions of mathematics simultaneously and have access to technology that hasn't existed since the progenitors vanished." "Then he's incredibly powerful," Quindar suggested. "Perhaps humans have mental abilities we cannot detect." They all watched as Jake tried to juggle the sacred orb, failed immediately, and nearly dropped it on his foot. "Perhaps not," she amended. "Could it be a species-wide ability?" asked Councillor Vorpnax, whose multiple eyes blinked out of sequence. "Some kind of unconscious reality manipulation?" Blorpt, who had been invited to give testimony, flashed a series of colors that the translators rendered as, "Respectfully, That guy doesn't seem like he could manipulate his way out of a paper bag. Play it again, Quindar commanded. They watched it 3 more times. Each viewing made less sense than the last. Jake had now found a bench near the orb and was sitting down, apparently deciding to take a break. He'd pulled out what appeared to be a sandwich from somewhere and was eating it while admiring the cosmic architecture. He brought a lunch, Councillor Threndax observed. To the most important trial in galactic civilization, he brought a lunch. Is that peanut butter? Milcaris asked. I believe so, Vexthor confirmed, zooming in the image. Quindar's crystalline structure flickered intensely. This is unacceptable. We cannot certify a species for council membership based on what appears to be a technical malfunction. I'm ordering a full investigation. Commander Vexthor, bring in the science team. Councillor Threndax, review all protocols. Everyone else, figure out what in the 17 hells just happened. Down in the trial chamber, Jake had finished his sandwich and was now trying to figure out how to activate the orb properly. Hello? He said, tapping it. Is this thing on? Do I need to say magic words or something? Abracadabra, please? Pretty please with sugar on top? The orb, recognizing that the trial had been completed, even if nobody understood how, began to glow with acceptance. Oh, sweet, Jake said. Does this mean I passed? Can I go home now? High Chancellor Quindar made a sound like shattering diamonds. This was going to be a very long investigation. Professor Tikamali had 6 eyes, 4 PhD equivalents, and exactly 0 patience for protocol violations. As the galaxy's leading expert on the path of trials, she'd spent 2 centuries studying every species that had ever attempted it. She'd written 17 books on the subject, she had strong opinions about footnote formatting, and now she was being asked to interview the human who had apparently broken the entire system by accident. Jake sat across from her in the interrogation chamber, looking remarkably relaxed for someone who'd just caused a galactic incident. Mr. Murphy, Tikamali began, adjusting her spectacles across 3 of her eyes. We need to understand your species. Please describe humanity's defining characteristic. Jake thought about it. We're pretty decent at running. Not fast running, but we can jog for a really long time. It's actually kind of creepy if you think about it from the prey's perspective. Tikamali made a note. Persistence hunters. But the maze has handled persistence hunters before. What else? We're pretty good with our hands. Thumbs, very useful. I can open jars that my girlfriend can't, which honestly is like 70% of the value I bring to the relationship. Tool users. Also not unprecedented. We're okay at thinking. We're smart enough to be dangerous but dumb enough to try stuff anyway. We invented nuclear weapons and then immediately used them, which in retrospect, maybe not our best decision as a species. Tikamali's primary eyes narrowed. You're describing multiple moderate capabilities, not a defining trait. Yeah, I guess we're kind of all over the place. Jake shrugged. We're decent at lots of stuff, but not really the best at anything. Except maybe stubbornness. We're really good at that, and we love dogs. We're exceptional at loving dogs. Dogs? Dogs? They're these furry animals we domesticated. They're basically wolves, but friendlier. We let them live in our houses, and we pick up their poop with little bags. It's a whole thing. Tikamali was beginning to develop a headache across all 6 of her optical nerves. The science team ran every scan they had. Jake's biology was unremarkable. No psychic abilities, no reality warping fields, no quantum manipulation. The only unusual reading was a concerning amount of microplastics in his bloodstream, which apparently was just normal for humans. What about your warriors? Tikamali asked, desperately. Surely Earth has legendary fighters who embody your species' martial prowess. Oh yeah, definitely. Jake pulled out his phone. Here, let me show you. He played a video of what appeared to be small humans hitting a ball with sticks while adults screamed encouragement from the sidelines. That's my nephew Tyler's Little League game. He plays third base. He's not very good, but he tries hard, and that's what matters. This is your warrior class? What? No, that's children playing baseball. Our warriors are like soldiers and stuff. But honestly, most of them are just regular people who signed up for a job. My buddy Dave is in the National Guard. He mostly helps with flood relief and sometimes gets called up for wildfires. Nice guy. Makes a great brisket. Tikamali looked at her colleagues. They looked back, equally baffled. That's when the horrible truth began to dawn on her. "Run the comparative analysis," she ordered quietly. The computers compiled data on every species in the galactic database, mapping their evolutionary traits against specialization indices. Every species had a spike somewhere. The Zorani had off-the-chart telekinetic abilities. The Krelax showed unprecedented hive-mind connectivity. Even the Blorgians, who were generally considered pretty dumb, had exceptional regenerative capabilities. Then they mapped humans. The graph looked like a perfectly average plateau. Decent running speed, decent strength, decent intelligence, decent social skills, decent everything. Not exceptional at anything, not terrible at anything. Just aggressively, defiantly, almost offensively average at everything. "Oh no," Tikamali whispered. "What is it?" asked her assistant. The maze couldn't find a weakness because humans don't have a strength to exploit. They're generalists. They're the cosmic equivalent of a participation trophy. They are not good enough at any one thing for the maze to identify it as a defining trait. The room went silent. "So, what you're saying," Jake said slowly, "is that we passed the test because we're just kind of mediocre at everything." "Essentially, yes. That's the most human thing I've ever heard," Jake grinned. "Can I get that on a t-shirt?" The revelation spread through the Galactic Council like a virus through a space station's air recycling system. "This is unprecedented," High Chancellor Quindar said for the 17th time. She was refracting light in patterns that the translators were rendering as various swear words in 12 languages. Councillor Threndax pulsed thoughtfully in his jar. The path of trials was designed by the progenitors to test worthiness by forcing warriors to confront the opposite of their greatest strength. But if a species has no particular strength, then there's no opposite to confront, Tikamali finished. The maze literally cannot create an appropriate trial because there's nothing to invert. Humans are the galactic equivalent of a Swiss army knife, moderately useful for many things, exceptional at nothing. "I object to this characterization," Vexthor said, though his objection lacked conviction. "Surely there must be something special about them." Blorpt flashed a series of colors that translated to, "Have you met them?" Down in the holding area, Jake was teaching a security guard how to play rock, paper, scissors, a game the guard found simultaneously simple and philosophically disturbing. "But why would rock beat scissors?" the guard asked, his tentacles quivering with confusion. "Scissors can scratch rock." "Look, I don't make the rules," Jake said. "I just play the game." Back in the council chamber, Councillor Milcaris was having an unsettling thought. "Wait, if humans don't specialize, doesn't that make them adaptable?" "Extremely," Tikamali confirmed. "They can survive in diverse environments, learn multiple skills, and adjust strategies rapidly. They're not the best at anything, which means they can be adequate at everything." A long pause filled the chamber. "That's actually kind of terrifying," Vorpnak said quietly. "Most species have a clear counter-strategy. You know how to fight a Zorani. You just use kinetic weapons since they focus on telekinesis. You know how to fight a Krelax. You just isolate them from the hive. But humans? What's the counter to someone who's medium good at everything?" "You'd need to be better than them at everything," Threndax said slowly. "And how many species can claim that?" Another long pause. Quindar made a decision. "I'm calling a vote. All in favor of refusing Earth's certification on the grounds that the trial was not completed as intended?" 3 hands, tentacles, and appendages went up. "All in favor of certifying Earth despite the unusual circumstances?" 4 voted yes. The motion passes. Earth is granted provisional council membership. Quindar sounded like she was announcing a funeral. "Commander Vexthor, inform the human." Vexthor found Jake in the cafeteria, having acquired what appeared to be an alien approximation of coffee and making small talk with the staff about their respective weekends. "Mr. Murphy, you've been certified. Congratulations. Earth is now part of the Galactic Council." "Oh, sweet!" Jake raised his cup in celebration. "Does the benefits package include dental?" What? "Dental coverage, for teeth." Jake tapped his incisors. "This stuff gets expensive back home." "We'll send you the documentation," Vexthor said wearily. There will be a formal ceremony next month. We'll need you to return. Can do. Just send me the calendar invite. Jake paused. Actually, can you make it after the 15th? That's when my lease is up and I'm moving apartments. It's going to be a whole thing. Vexthor stared at him. This human had just become the face of his species' entry into galactic civilization, and he was worried about apartment logistics. The 15th will be fine, he said finally. Cool. Oh, and hey, you guys should really consider that gift shop idea. I'd totally buy a snow globe of the maze, or like a keychain or something. As Jake walked away, still sipping his terrible coffee, Vexthor realized that the galaxy was never going to be quite the same. And somewhere in the depths of the path of trials, the ancient AI was still processing what had happened, running simulations, trying to understand how its perfect system had been defeated, not by strength, but by the complete absence of anything it could test against. In the end, it added a single line to its database: humans unpredictable. Approach with caution, possibly bring snacks. 3 months later, the galaxy had adapted to its new normal, the way organisms adapt to a persistent low-grade infection, with resignation and frequent complaining. The path of trials had been redesigned. The ancient maze now included what the engineers called human proofing, though nobody could agree on what that actually meant. The current solution involved adding a mandatory riddle section, assuming humans couldn't be medium good at riddles too. They were wrong, but it made the council feel better. Jake Murphy had become an accidental celebrity. He did the talk show circuit, giving interviews where he provided profoundly unhelpful advice. How did you prepare for the trials? Asked one host, a crystalline being who sparkled with genuine curiosity. I didn't, Jake said honestly. I just kind of showed up. What wisdom can you share with other species attempting the path? Have you tried not overthinking it? What's Earth's secret to success? We don't have one. That's kind of the whole point. The interviews were simultaneously the most watched and least informative content in galactic media history. Commander Vexithor had developed what his species would call a drinking habit, which involved absorbing fermented minerals through his secondary skin ports. He spent most of his days staring at the redesigned maze and wondering if early retirement was an option. Blorpt had started a support group for beings traumatized by human interactions. It met weekly. Attendance was growing. On a Tuesday afternoon, another human showed up at the Path of Trials facility. Name? Vexthor asked tiredly, not looking up from his paperwork. Derek Murphy. I'm Jake's cousin. Vexthor's head snapped up. There was another one. Derek was somehow even more casual than Jake. He was wearing cargo shorts, a t-shirt that said, "I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right," and he'd brought a folding chair. You brought a chair, Vexthor said flatly. Yeah, Jake said there might be waiting. I also brought a cooler. Derek patted a small insulated container. Got some sandwiches, a couple of drinks, and some chips. Want a soda? I don't have a mouth. Oh, that's rough, buddy. Vexthor pulled up the maze's diagnostics. The AI took one look at Derek's quantum signature, compared it to Jake's stored data, and immediately filed what could only be described as a resignation letter. Error, another one detected. Analysis, similar generalist profile. Recommendation, surrender. Secondary recommendation, have existential crisis. Tertiary recommendation, consider career in different dimension. The maze opened a straight path to the center before Derek had even stepped inside. Nah, Derek said. Jake said it was easy, but this is like suspiciously easy. In the council chamber, emergency alarms were ringing. Not again, Quindar moaned, her crystalline structure dimming with despair. Councillor Threndax brought up the projections. According to Earth's census data, there are approximately 8 billion humans. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. 8 billion, Forpnax repeated. 8 billion potentially certifiable council candidates who will all break the path of trials by being aggressively average at everything. We're going to have to redesign the entire system, Tikmali said, already making notes. Maybe create a human-specific trial, test them on something they're actually bad at. Like what? Milcaris asked. In following instructions, taking things seriously, not making jokes at inappropriate times? In the observation room, Derek had reached the sacred orb and was setting up his folding chair next to it. He cracked open a soda, put his feet up, and pulled out his phone. "This is pretty nice," he said to nobody in particular. "Good ambiance. Very cosmic. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Could use some background music, though." Jake had been called in to help orient his cousin. He arrived to find Derek playing a mobile game on his phone, periodically glancing up at the ancient cosmic architecture. "Hey, man," Derek said. "This is pretty cool. You want a sandwich? I made extra." "Sure." Jake grabbed one and sat down in a second chair Derek had somehow produced. "Did they explain the whole thing about Earth getting council membership?" "Yeah, something about that. Sounds like a lot of paperwork, though." "Oh, definitely. You have no idea." Vexthor watched them through the monitors, these two humans casually eating sandwiches in the holiest chamber of the most important trial in galactic civilization. Blorpt floated up beside him, flashing sympathetic blue. "I know," Vexthor said. "I know." In the distance, they could hear the council screaming. The galaxy was just going to have to get used to humans. They weren't going anywhere. They'd persist, adapt, and probably bring snacks. They'd be medium good at everything the universe threw at them, and somehow, impossibly, that was enough. The path of trials, ancient and impartial, had taught them all a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't exceptional strength. Sometimes it's exceptional averageness applied with absolute confidence. And maybe a folding chair.